UFC Fight Night, Holm vs. Silva will be this weekend, and I'm going to give you a full card prediction and breakdown from start to finish. All 14 fights. There's going to be a few good ones on here, or at least interesting matchups, because of either they're just scrappy in general or there's like a decent prospect. But a lot of this card, I'll probably say like 9 to 10 fights, are going to be really rough to watch. So I'm not too excited to necessarily watch this card, but there are definitely some high points to it. So starting off in our first early prelim fight, I guess is what you call it. I don't know if they have early prelims on fight night cards, because I think it's like a 6-fight main card. But for the prelims, we have Tucker Lutz versus Melsik Baghdasaryan, and I'm going to take Melsik Baghdasaryan in this matchup. I think he's going to be a little bit too fast for Tucker Lutz. Tucker Lutz is like weirdly built like Josh Emmett. I don't know what exactly it is, but I think Melsik Baghdasaryan really good off his lead leg with the leg kicks and just kicks in general. He's got more tools on him than I believe Tucker Lutz does. And honestly, his last fight against Joshua Kleebau, I thought he was doing decent, but he ended up losing by like slipping, and Joshua Kleebau just jumped on his back and submitted him. So it was a very unfortunate loss to have. Before then, he beat Bruno Souza in the UFC and beat Colin Anglin by KO. So I think he's actually a pretty decent fighter. Beat Dennis Bazooka also. But Tucker Lutz coming off a loss to Daniel Pineda by submission, to Pat Sabatini by decision. And Pat Sabatini, I think, is a decent fighter. Pineda is a decent fighter. I picked Tucker Lutz, I believe, but I think Melsik Baghdasaryan gets this one done. Maybe he gets the finish, but I can definitely see this one going to a decision. I believe Tapology has it pretty much 60% for decision within the 87%. Yeah, I'm probably going to go with the decision. I don't know if he gets the finish, but he definitely could. Up the card, we have Austin Lingo versus Melquizael Costa, I think is how you say his name. Melquizael Costa made his UFC debut against Thiago Moises, and he lost due to rear naked choke, but definitely made it tough for Moises in that match. It wasn't easy for him. I believe this was on UFC 283. Moises is a very good unranked fighter. I think he was top 15 at one point. Probably the toughest, outside of Volk, probably the toughest matchup Islam Makhachev faced coming up. And I think he did really well starting off. He defended all the takedowns. He's a weirdly strong dude. And he's actually a pretty entertaining guy. I think he had like the Rodman haircut when he made his UFC debut against Thiago Moises. It was a different color, but he's definitely a little bit of a character. For Austin Lingo, coming off a loss to Nate Landwehr, lost that one by submission. He did do like at least decent in the first round, but I mean, if we're comparing performances, I think Costa did a little bit better against a better opponent. But I am going to go with Costa. I think he's stronger. I think he has a little bit more power on the feet. He could get a finish here. I'm not too big on Austin Lingo. Has a win over Luis Saldana, Jacob Kilburn by decision, and lost to Yusuf Zalal for his UFC debut. So I am going to go with Melquizael Costa. 71% for Tapology here. A few people are taking Lingo. This isn't necessarily a bad pick if you pick Lingo, but I think Costa gets this one done. Look decent on the ground. I think he'll just be stronger, and you'll just have a little bit more power. Up the card, we have Istela Nunes versus Victoria Dudakova. I am going to go with Victoria Dudakova. I believe she was on the UFC Contender Series against Maria Silva. I think I chose Maria Silva because she had really good jiu-jitsu off her back, and I thought she was just going to end up catching Dudakova into something, and she did decent in that matchup. But Dudakova, 24 years of age, looked really good offensively on the ground in the wrestling department. Won that fight by decision. Again, looked really good against a good jiu-jitsu, good grappler in Maria Silva. Istela Nunes lost 4 of her last 5. Lost to Yasmin Uruguay by KO. Lost to Sam Hughes by decision. Lost to Ariana Carnelosi by submission. Beat Gina Inilong on 1. So herself in the UFC has lost 3 fights in a row. Lost to Sam Hughes by decision. You know how good Sam Hughes is. So I am going to go with Victoria Dudakova. I think she wrestles here. I don't think Istela Nunes has anything for her on the ground. So I am going to go with Victoria Dudakova. 93% of Tapology agrees here. I don't know if she gets a submission. Actually, I think she could get it. I do think she gets a submission here. I don't know if the threat on the ground is the same as it was for Maria Silva. Coming into that fight on the Contender Series, I believe she had all finishes. What was it? 4 wins by submission, 1 win by KO, and then her only decision was her debut on the Contender Series. And I don't think the threat's there for Maria Silva on the ground, and I think she gets this one done. But after what I saw last weekend, I don't have any hope for lower level women's MMA. Yasmin Uruguay literally lost in 30 seconds to Denise Gomes. And Gomez isn't bad, but like she was a good prospect. So I don't know. I don't understand it, but I'm gonna go with Dudakova here, minus 290 favorite. It's probably about right. Up the card we have Genaro, Valdez versus Evan Elder, and I was a little conflicted with this matchup because I really wanted to take Genaro Valdez, and I was looking at Evan Elder, and I don't think he was worth a minus 300 favorite, and I think this fight's a little bit closer. I'm not making my pick based on the betting odds, but I think this is a little bit of a closer match than what's being perceived. I think the only way I see Elder winning this is if he mixes in the takedowns, but if it's on the feet, I think Valdez has a really good chance at catching Elder, especially as the fight goes on. Evan Elder looked really good against Nazim Sadykhov in his last fight, but when I rewatched it, Sadykhov definitely had his moments, but Elder did look good for sure. He landed some good strikes on Sadykhov, but that was Sadykhov's UFC debut. I think he was on Dana White's Contender Series, but Sadykhov looked good. I believe Evan Elder made his debut against Preston Parsons, I think like up a weight division, but I'm not too big on Preston Parsons either, so I don't know, man. Sadykhov is really technical on the feet, got on the ground, defended all the takedowns. I don't think Valdez will do that here, which is why I think I will stick with Elder, but I really was going to go with Valdez. Last fight, he lost to Natan Levy by decision, and then lost to Matt Frivola by KO, which isn't necessarily bad. Matt Frivola literally just knocked out Drew Dober. I'm going to use Matt Frivola as a little framework for some of my picks later on. But I think Genaro Valdez, if this fight stays on the feet, I think he has a really good chance at catching Evan Elder. Sadykhov was able to catch Elder early on in that fight and pretty much put him down. Didn't put him down to the ground, but made him fall forward to like a knee or two and then got back up. Obviously, Evan Elder landed some good shots on Sadykhov, but Evan Elder started to tire out a little bit more as that fight went on. Maybe it's because he was feeling takedowns, which is why I'm going to go with Elder, because I do think he lands some of the more takedowns. But Valdez has wrestled in his fights. We'll see how he does mentally, defensively with the takedowns. Evan Elder does train out a pretty good gym for Killcliff FC, similar in reach advantages. 26 years of age for Evan Elder, so I'm going to go with the improvements there. Genaro Valdez has had really fun fights, which is why if this does go to a scrap, I am a little worried for Evan Elder, because if they do start scrapping, I think Valdez has a really good chance in this matchup. So I'm going to go with Elder by a decision. I don't think he gets the KO. I really don't think he gets the KO against Valdez. Valdez is a very tough dude. He literally got knocked down like 5 times against Matt Frivola before it got stopped and never went out. And then Natan Levy, he got hurt badly early on in that fight, but he still went to a decision. So I think he's going to be tough enough. I don't think Evan Elder has that crazy of power that people are talking about. I don't know if he's worth a minus 300 either. I am going to go with him. He's 26 years of age. I'm going to bet on the young guy here. I don't know, man. I think it's a decision. I don't see him finishing Genaro Valdez. I think this goes to a decision. As the fight goes on, though, the first round, if it's a pretty high-paced fight and you think it is going to stay on the feet, I think Valdez, maybe as a live underdog, might not be a bad bet here because it's already pretty heavy in the odds. Maybe he extends to like a plus 500 after the first round if he does lose, because Evan Elder, I think, might tire out with some of the wrestling. I don't know. We'll see what happens here. I am going to go with Evan Elder, but I wouldn't be surprised if Genaro Valdez, if it does turn into a scrap, ends up winning this one against Elder, just doing a little bit more damage. So I am going to go with Elder by decision. Up the card, we have Carl Deaton III versus Alex Munoz. I am going to go with Alex Munoz. He hasn't fought in 2 years. His last fight was a split decision loss to Luis Pena, lost to Nasrat Haqparas on his UFC debut. He's been out for 2 years. I believe he did say, I was looking through his Instagram, I wasn't too sure why he wasn't fighting. And I believe he replied to a comment saying that he was dealing with an ACL injury. So I think he did have a fight with Herbert Burns, probably about, I think it was in 2021. Hasn't gotten a fight since, probably because he was dealing with an ACL injury, so he probably wasn't accepting fights there. But Carl Deaton III, last fight was a loss to Joe Selecki by rear naked choke, and that was his UFC debut. So I'm going to go with Munoz. I think he's really good on the ground. I think he can just not necessarily hold Carl Deaton, but I think he can control him on the ground and do really well there. That's what I'm going with here. Team Alpha Male is a good wrestling academy, I guess is what you say. He does have the reach advantage of 5 inches in this matchup as well. But Team Alpha Male, a lot of good wrestlers there. Carl Deaton III does train, I guess, according to Tapology, with American Top Team primarily, but I just think Alex Munoz is just going to be able to control him on the ground and do a little bit here to get the decision. 78% by Tapology for the decision, 78% for Munoz, 85% within that by decision. I agree with them there. This is a semi-close fight because we haven't seen much of Alex Alex Munoz in 2 years, but I do think he wins this one. Up the card, we have Tyson Nam versus Azat Maksum, and I am going to go with Azat Maksum here. He is making his UFC debut. UFC signing a lot of Kazakhstan guys recently. 16-0, minus 420 favorite here. We don't necessarily know his reach advantage. I'm not sure it'll be too off from Tyson Nam's here. But Tyson Nam's a very dangerous guy, especially at 40 years old. He's still got power in his hands, but he was taken down for the first time, I believe, in his career against Bruno Silva, at least in the UFC, by Bruno Silva, and ended up getting submitted. I think Azat Maksum could probably do the same here. I think Azat Maksum, 16-0 guy, has beaten some decently recorded record guys. I guess if that's correct grammarly. But Tyson Nam has also fought some of the better guys in the division. I believe he's lost to Kai Kara-France, beat Ode Osborne, who's a decent unranked guy. I think Bruno Silva's ranked. Matt Schnell is ranked. Jerome Rivera at the time. Zaruk Adeshev's a good one to have. Kai Kara-France lost there. Sergio Pennis lost. So he's fought some of the better guys. He's fought some very tough competition. Obviously, he's a little bit younger. But I think Azat Maksum gets the submission here. Potentially, this one could go to a decision, but I do see him getting the submission here. Maybe in the second round. Maybe in the first round. Who knows if he's able to get that takedown early on. 16-0 prospect. We'll see what he does here. I believe the UFC has like some kind of stat. I think you probably saw it. Was it the Robbie Lawler fight? I don't know exactly what fight it was, but especially recently, there's a stat they always throw up there when it's like a fighter with 10-year age gap from their competitor. I think it's like a 74% or something like that win rate for the younger fighter. So if you're going off statistics, maybe Azat Maksum is a guy to look at, but minus 420, it probably isn't touchable in this matchup if you are better. We'll see what happens. Maybe submission might be a little bit lower there, or decision, who knows. But a lot of people are taking Azat Maksum, 88% here, 62% within that by submission. Few people by decision. I can see it going either way, but I do see Azat Maksum getting that sub in his UFC, or not his UFC career, but he has 6 wins by submissions, 5 wins by TKO, and 4 wins by decision. So who knows? I can definitely see it evening out there. Tyson Nam's a really good veteran in that flyweight division. We'll see what he does, but I think Azat Maksum does get this one over him. Up the card, we have Ashlee Evans-Smith versus Ailin Perez. What a wonderful women's fight that I can't wait to see. Ashlee Evans-Smith, last 4 of her last 5. Hasn't fought since 2.5 years ago against Norma Dumont and lost that fight, which isn't a bad loss to have. Lost to Andrea Lee isn't a bad fight or loss to have. Beat Beck Rawlings. Lost to Sarah Moras by submission. Lost to Ketlen Vieira by decision. So she doesn't have bad losses in her career, but she hasn't fought in 2.5 years. 36 years of age. Ailin Perez, the young lady here, lost to Stephanie Egger. I thought she was going to beat Stephanie Egger, but she didn't. I believe I did choose Ailin Perez in this one, I think. I'm not even quite sure off the top of my head, but she made her UFC debut against Stephanie Egger, lost that one by rear naked choke. She does have a little bit of a good fight team that she's with, MMA Masters. Of course, you probably know that one, but she's been looking for a fight recently. I don't think she got both of them. I think both of her opponents pulled out against Zara Fern and Haley Cohen. I think they both had issues and they couldn't end up fighting. So she's been iced up for about like 9 months. So I am going to go with Ailin Perez. I'm not sure what we're getting with Ashlee Evans-Smith. She did lose decisions to Ketlen Vieira, Andrea Lee, and Norma Dumont. So if that says anything, I guess. But Perez, 87% for Tapology, most of that by decision. I feel like low-level women's fights are mostly probably going to be betted by decision here. So I'm going to go with Ailin Perez. Not super confident in it, but I am going to go with her in this one. Up the card, we have Della Maddalena versus Bassil Hafez, I think is how you say his name. This matchup was made on short notice for Bassil Hafez, or at least for both guys, but Bassil Hafez is coming in on short notice. Della Maddalena was supposed to originally fight Sean Brady. He ended up pulling out, and then he's supposed to fight Josiah Harrell. Harrell had a very crazy brain issue that he probably would have gotten potentially his life removed if Maddalena actually knocked him out, which probably could have been a very real possibility there. But Della Maddalena fighting a very big dude. This isn't a lightweight in Josiah Harrell, a 5'7" lightweight in Josiah Harrell. Bassil Hafez is a very, very big dude, so there's going to be a question whether he can make weight, and it's kind of the same thing with Della Maddalena, I guess. Della Maddalena will be making 2 weight cuts in the matter of a week, or at least, well, Yeah, that's about right. He's gonna make two weight cuts within a week. I am a little bit worried about that because Bassil Hafez does have some power in his hands, and you kind of saw Jack Della Maddalena making his weight cut against Randy Brown in Australia. They did that little interview that kind of went a little bit viral, where he's like shaking and doing all that stuff, and it didn't look quite good. I know Jack Della Maddalena is like a decently big guy. I won't say a very big guy for 170 because it's not like a Hamzat. I don't even know if it's even like a Kamaru Usman situation here, but he's a big dude. And we'll see if he's going to be able to make the weight here. I think he will. He's a professional, 26 years old. I don't see why he can't. But for this matchup, I am going to go Jack Della Maddalena. I think he's going to be better on the feet. But still, Hafez does have power in his hands, but he is kind of sloppy. I don't see too much technique in his shots. Like, he does land some good shots. I believe he got a KO win his last matchup against Evan Cutts. But Jack Della Maddalena is an absolute dog. I think he gets this one done against Bassil Hafez. Bassil Hafez, good on the ground too. Maybe he does look for some takedowns against Maddalena, but Maddalena was preparing for Sean Brady. And Sean Brady is a very good wrestler and grappler. I think he's going to be ready for Bassil Hafez everywhere this fight goes. Not necessarily saying that like he's training for this guy specifically, like his training camp was for Sean Brady. But if it does go to the ground, I am trusting Jack Della Maddalena to definitely do really well there. I think he definitely has good takedown defense, is good on the ground. You saw that within his last couple of fights. I think Angelusa, that fight, and then you saw, Ramazan Amib. He's able to get, I think, out of, an arm triangle or like a guillotine or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he got out of a very deep submission there. I think he'll be fine on the ground. Probably had Craig Jones in his corner if Craig Jones didn't fly back, because I believe he was going to be in his corner because he was training with him for the Sean Brady fight. But I think Jack Della Maddalena potentially knocks out Bassil Hafez in the first round. I don't know why I clicked on that one, but Bassil Hafez in his career has lost all his fights by decision. So, and Jack Della Maddalena has insane power. So, I'm gonna go with JDM here. First round KO. I think he does well defending the takedowns. Bassil Hafez probably tries to catch him off the break. Like once Jack Della Maddalena tries to defend it, he'll probably just try to swing at him. But I think JDM just has too much power. He's good at avoiding some of the bigger shots. You saw him take some shots against like Pete Rodriguez, who I think is a very good boxer. And I think even with Randy Brown, like a lot of people watching that fight probably could have thought that Randy Brown was doing really well, but he has such a good guard up. JDM has a really good guard. All the punches really that were landing for Randy Brown were literally just hitting the gloves. I think he landed like a front kick and maybe he landed a good jab. But I thought JDM did really good, especially with the reach advantage that Randy Brown did have in that matchup. But I am going to go with Jack Della Maddalena. I think he ends up catching Bassil Hafez after a couple failed takedowns, and I can just see him winning this one by first round KO. So that's what I have in this one. Tapology, 178 votes only, 98% for Maddalena. The 2% are wild for picking Hafez, but you'll kind of get that with every pick on here. So I'm going to go JDM in this matchup by KO in the first round. Up the card, we have Terrance McKinney versus Nazim Sadykhov. I am going to go as Terrance McKinney in this one, and I feel like that's a little bit of an unpopular pick just based on what I saw before making this pick. But Terrance McKinney, yes, he did get brutally knocked out against Ismail Bonfim, and you kind of saw with the fighter in Ismail Bonfim when he did get KO'd, he was way more technical. And Terrance McKinney had a really big problem with the very technical striker in Ismail Bonfim, and you kind of see the same thing in Nazim Sadykhov. But for this matchup, I don't know. I won't say Nazim Sadykhov is small because he apparently is the same height as Terrance McKinney, even though he looks small when he fights. I don't know why. For some reason, I never can fathom why he makes lightweight. He doesn't look that big to me, but I guess he's a bigger lightweight. 8-1, made his UFC debut against Evan Elder, and then beat Ahmed Hassanzada on the Contender Series, won that one by KO. But Sadykhov ended up beating Evan Elder due to like a cut. He was kind of losing that fight. I think Terrance McKinney, having a 4.5-inch reach advantage here, he does fight longer. He's a lot more explosive. Sadykhov was definitely getting hit pretty hard. I think he got dropped, if I remember correctly, in that matchup against Evan Elder. And I think Terrance McKinney early on can definitely do some damage quite early and land a really good shot on Sadykhov because he does have that length. He's a little bit more explosive. We'll see if Sadykhov is going to be able to get inside and maybe be able to take down Terrance McKinney. But Terrance McKinney has a really good wrestling background. I can see McKinney kind of just knocking down Sadykhov and kind of just getting on top of him. and then just landing some good ground and pound. But I am a little worried. I think Terrance McKinney told his fans to like bet on him, like he's going to destroy this guy. So I am a little worried that he's going to be a bit overconfident here and end up getting like caught by Nazim Sadykhov or something, because Terrance McKinney, interesting chin from him. He's supposed to like run through Eric Gonzalez, who I don't even think is in the UFC at this point. And Eric Gonzalez ended up landing a really good shot on Terrance McKinney, kind of rattled him for a second. I think he went on short notice against Drew Dober, landed a really good shot on Drew Dober and hurt him. Drew Dober ended up, I think, hurting Terrance McKinney, or Terrance McKinney started like tiring out, went to the ground, and then Drew Dober kind of just finished it on, or knee to ground strikes. Okay, so he did catch him with the knee and then just finished him up on the ground. But Terrance McKinney had a little bit of fun before then, beat Matt Frivola, Nazim Sadykhov's teammate, from what I believe. I don't know. I think Terrance McKinney gets this one done. I think the length will definitely help him, especially early on, because Nazim Sadykhov is going to have to get inside to land some good punches on him. And I think Terrance McKinney is going to be a little bit ready here. I think he hurts him early on, drops him. I think he finishes him up on the ground. So I am going to go Terrance McKinney here. He is the underdog in this matchup, which is very interesting. Only 28 years old also, so he is learning a little bit more. If Terrance McKinney's actually been training pretty hard, so to at least like try and work on his stand-up a little bit more. But I am going to go with McKinney. Just more power, more length here. I think it's about 50-50 on Tapology. 54% for Terrance McKinney, 46% for Sadykhov. This is one of the more interesting fights on the card, so we'll see who wins this one. But I can definitely see either one of these guys winning for sure. Up the card, we have Ottman Azaitar versus Francisco Prado. And now, I am kind of struggling to pick this one. Ottman Azaitar coming off a loss over Matt Frivola. Landed a couple decent strikes on Matt Frivola, but Matt Frivola KO'd him. Not necessarily a bad loss or a bad KO to have, even though he did go out cold. Matt Frivola literally knocked down Drew Dober. I'm going to mention it a couple times in here because I'm going to use that as a framework here. But Matt Frivola's got some insane power in his hands, like an unreal amount of power in his hands. And I think Ottman Azaitar was doing really good before he did end up getting KO'd by Matt Frivola in the UFC. Did really good before then. Beat Timu Pakalian, so I'm going to say that name, and then beat Kamal Worthy by TKO. Obviously, you had that potato incident, so the potato man didn't get his potato. I think he ended up getting cut, I believe, which is probably about the right thing, but he did get signed back. So I don't know exactly what's going on there, but he's fighting Drew Dober from Argentina is what it looks like. Crimson Chin Jr. from Argentina. I don't know. I like Prado as a fighter. I feel like he is kind of open on the feet a little bit, which does kind of worry me here. A lot of people are saying Prado is going to win this one, and I don't know if I'm too confident. He does have the length on Azaitar, which I do like, but he is 21 years old. He's still very young, 33 years of age for Azaitar, so he's still kind of in that prime area for Azaitar is what I'm talking about, but he just got knocked out brutally. So I'm not too sure for this one. Plus 110 for Azaitar, minus 135 for Prado. My issue with this is when I approach this card, the last few weeks we've had a lot of underdogs hit, and I noticed last week we had the underdogs with a lot of power, like with the power advantage, really winning off their underdog stuff. So I don't know, man. Prado does have good power in his hands. He probably does have the better chin. But where do we see Azaitar at this point? Like, he's knocking these guys out cold, but same with Prado. Oof. Let's see. What Tapology has us 50-50 also. I think I might go with Azaitar. I think he has more power. I think he's going to be able to clip Prado. If this does become a little bit of a scrap, I do trust Prado a little bit more to end up catching Azaitar, but I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Prado, in all of his fights, I believe, 5 wins by KO, 6 wins by submission. So he has a 100% win rate when it comes to finishes. And he ended up losing to Jamie Malarkey by decision. I believe he did come in on that fight by short notice for UFC 284. I don't know. I think I probably should have thought of someone to pick before then, because I was pretty 50-50 going into this one. But he will have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's going to be a little bit taller. I think I am going to end up going with Prado. I was going to pick Azaitar, but I don't know. I think just look at the man's chin. No, I'm just saying. But I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm going to go with Prado. He's younger, way younger, 21 years of age, like super young. Hopefully he figures something out. Maybe he'll be really good. as he learns a little bit more. But he did lose to Jamie Larkey by decision on his UFC debut. I think I will go with him here. I think he's just going to be a little bit more durable than Azaitar. And I think if it does end up becoming a scrap, I can trust the durability of Prado more than Azaitar. So I'm going to go with Prado. I think he has a little bit of a future in the UFC. Hopefully he can get some wins racked up. But I'm going to go with Prado by KO. Maybe in the late first round here. Maybe he's not going to put Azaitar out cold, but I can see him winning by TKO. So I'm going to go with Prado in this one. Up the card, we have Norma Dumont versus Chelsea Chandler. I'm going to go with Norma Cakes in this one. I believe this is the last fight at 145 in the UFC. I don't remember any other featherweight fights being made. I think they completely got rid of the whole entire division on the UFC website when I was trying to look for matchups to be made for whatever. And I think Norma Dumont wins this one. She has better win. Like, she's winning over the better fighters here. She beat Chelsea Chandler, beat Julie Sorlienko by KO. Norma Dumont beat Carol Rosa by decision. Even though she did get knocked down in that fight, won that one by decision. Beat Danielle Wolf, who's supposed to be a really good boxer. I think she was like 40 years old though. Lost to Macy Chiasson by split decision. Beat Aspen Ladd. Beat Felicia Spencer by split decision. So she's beating some decent ladies. I'm going to go with her in this one. Minus 140 or minus 140. Minus 150 favorite here for her. 32 years of age, so she's in her prime. 82% of Tapology is going to be saying Dumont in this one by decision. That's probably about right. I don't trust any women's MMA fighter that is below rank 5, but I think Norma Dumont does get this one done. Up the card, we have Walt Harris versus Josh Parisian. I'm going to go with Walt Harris here. Josh Parisian, his resume as of recently: lost to Jamal Pogues, beat Alan Badeau by finish, I guess. Lost to Dontel Mays. Beat Roque Martinez. Lost to Parker Porter. And that's fat Parker Porter too. It's not when he lost weight. So I don't know, man. Walt Harris has been training with John Jones. Lost to Marcin Tybura by KO. Lost to Alexander Volkov by KO. Lost to Alistair Overeem by KO. So 3 really good fighters that he lost to. Beat Alexei Oleinik. Beat Sergey Spivak, which is actually a really good win to have. That was 4 years ago. Really good win to have. Sergey Spivak's in the main event against Cyril Gahn. So, I mean, good win to have there. He is 40 years old, though. 81-inch reach, 2-inch reach advantage over Josh Parisian. I do think he gets the KO here, probably in the first round. I don't know, man. Walt Harris is losing to a different kind of competition than Josh Parisian is. Walt Harris has at least a little bit left in the tank here at 40 years old. I think he gets this one done for sure. Tapology has Walt Harris winning this one 80%. And within that 85% by KO, so I'm 100% on board with that. I don't think Josh Parisian is that good. And I think, again, Walt Harris has lost to better competition and has wins over better competition. So going with Walt Harris here, KO in the first round. Up the card, we have Albert Duraya versus Union Park. I'm going to go with Union Park here. I think he looked really good against Dennis Tululin, and I thought Dennis Tululin was actually a pretty solid fighter, but absolutely destroyed him in that one. I think he even picked Dennis Tululin, I think. And that didn't look like a good pick at all. Ended up beating Joseph Holmes by rear naked choke, which is probably about the... I mean, Joseph Holmes is not that good of a fighter, so he ended up beating him there. Good win there. Beat Eric Anders by split decision, which was an interesting one. Lost to Gregory Rodriguez by KO. Very tough dude also. Standing TKO from Gregory Rodriguez isn't necessarily a bad thing. And then beat Tapon Ninchukwi, I don't know, by decision. I can't say his name. And then Albert Duraev, last fight, went over Chidi Njokuani. Chidi Njokuani wasn't really taking too many risks on the feet. He did end up making it a little bit closer towards the end, but ended up going to a split decision. I thought Chidi was going to end up winning that one, but I was surprised when he didn't. Lost to Joaquin Buckley by KO. Was more of a doctor stoppage, but I thought Joaquin was doing pretty solid in that matchup. Beat Roman Kopylov, which is a solid one to have, by decision. And then beat Kyle Bittencourt by submission on the Contender Series. So I think Union Park is going to actually look decent on the ground here. I think he's really strong and maybe a little bit more stronger than he appears. I think this one might be interesting in the grappling department, but Union Park has some decent power in his hands. I think this one probably maybe stays on the feet and we get a little bit of an interesting matchup there. But maybe Union Park shoots in for takedowns. Maybe both of these guys do. But I think Union Park will probably be decent on the ground. I think Duraev will probably be decent on the ground. So I see this one ending up like maybe, hopefully it doesn't end up in like a clinch fight against the cage. But I'm going to go with Union Park here. I think he just wins by decision. He is at a 2-inch reach disadvantage, but Topology is kind of 50-50 on this one also. Duraev 56%, Park 44%. They have both of them thinking winning by decision. I think that's probably about right. But I'm going to go with Union Park. I think he is the stronger dude. The odds are slightly in favor with them at -160 and +130 for Duraev. So I'm going to go with Union Park here. This one could really go either way. We'll see what happens. But Union Park, 32 years of age, 34 years of age for Duraev. We'll see what happens. But obviously, Duraev has the better win, probably over Chidi and Jokwani than like a Dennis Tululin or a Joseph Holmes. And maybe an Eric Anders at this point. I think Chidi and Jokwani is a pretty solid fighter. But maybe Dennis Tululin, at least in the grappling, that was a little bit more impressive because Tululin has made it pretty competitive against really good guys on the ground. So maybe that was a little bit more impressive of a win, but at least for how he won. But I think Union Park wins this one. Maybe, I don't think he out-grapples them. Maybe they keep this one on the feet and it gets a little bit interesting. So I'm going to go Union Park by decision. Maybe it's a little bit closer, like a 29-28. Maybe a split decision. I don't mind that either here. So up the card, we have Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Oh, I can never say her name right. Mayra Bueno Silva. I am going to go with Holly Holm, and I think she's going to be good on the feet here. I think she's going to be way better than Bueno Silva on the feet for sure. I don't see Holly Holm taking this one to the ground, and I think that's going to be a really big mistake if she does do it. She beat Yana Santos pretty impressively in her last fight. One against in the clinch, went a little bit on the feet, and ended up taking her down. You would never know that Holly Holm is like a really good, I think it was a boxer or kickboxer, but she like, she never really uses it. And beat Irene Aldana by decision, beat Raquel Pennington by decision. So she's definitely up there still in that division. Lost to Ketlin Vieira by split decision. Some people thought she won. I thought Ketlin Vieira won that one. But Bueno Silva might be a little bit tough on the ground here. But I think Holly Holm is just going to be a little bit better on the feet. And I think she's going to use the clinch game. And it's going to be so boring. That's why I'm so excited for this matchup. Honestly, I forgot to tell you guys that. I'm so excited for this one. I love clinching in MMA. It's definitely not boring, and the way the women use it in MMA is they just make it so entertaining. Just how they just hug each other in the corner. So I'm gonna go with Holly Holm here. I think she does push her against the fence. I think she would be making a mistake if she does bring it to the ground because Bueno Silva is very good on the ground, but I think she'll be better on the feet. Mayra Bueno Silva is definitely coming up in that division, I guess. Has wins over Yanan Wu. Stephanie Egger won that one by armbar, which is a pretty good win to have, I guess. Stephanie Egger isn't that great of a fighter, but good submission. She finished it pretty early. Beat Lena Landsberg by knee bar. So I do think Holly Holmes wins this one if she does keep it on the feet. The odds are pretty close here. I don't mind. Personally, I wouldn't mind myself picking Holly Holm in this one, like betting-wise, but 66 to 34% here on the predictions for Tapology. Yeah, I think Holm by decision. I'm relatively confident, medium confidence in it. She has looked very good against some of the top 5 fighters in that division. We'll see how bantamweight looks like, or at least what bantamweight looks like after this matchup, because it is kind of open here. There are rumors, I think, of Ronda Rousey coming back, which honestly, UFC, take your most promotable, I screwed that word up, most promotable women's fighter in there and put her against Ronda Rousey. I don't necessarily know freaking women's bantamweight. What's women's bantamweight off my head? I think, is Fiora in that division? No, she's not in that division. Wrong division. Well, you got Pena, you got Holm, you got Pennington, you got Aldana, you got Vieira. Oh, no. There's no one in that division. Oh, no. Maybe put Pena in there with the Ronda Rousey, because honestly, Pena is the only one actually trying to make a name for herself in that division, actually trying to get eyes on the division. A lot of people think she's annoying. I think she's actually kind of funny. You saw her like screaming, I think, at Yair Rodriguez, like giving him advice to get up. I thought that was pretty entertaining. Did like a little Connor thing, like how he did with the Mendez Alvarez fight at BKFC. But I like Pena. Maybe you do that if Rousey does come back, and I don't know, maybe it would be a little bit more embarrassing because of Pena's striking. But honestly, try and get that belt on Pena. She's the most probably promotable and entertaining whether you hate her or like her, that'll probably get eyes on this on the women's area of bantamweight. So I'm gonna go with Holm in this one. I do think she wins by decision. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think about these picks. My plan was actually just to run through this card and like do a quick pick version. But I think it, like looking at my thing right now, it's like 40 minutes. I could see it being a little bit shorter than that. So it's probably like a 33-minute video. And I didn't even plan on doing that. So I'm going home. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think about the main event and some of the other closer fights on this card. And I'll see you guys next time.